District Attorney Paul Howard's time is up. Too many problems. Fani Willis will protect us. 24-year prosecutor, lawyer, and judge.
I'm Fani Willis. I will serve with integrity, treat people fairly, and keep our community safe.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Ologies of the Kingdom. For those of you who first time viewing us, Ologies of the Kingdom is filled with teachings about the Kingdom of God. As you know, Christ came talking about the Kingdom of God, which simply means God reigning in your life. And when we talk about God reigning in our lives, it talks about how God built us to be successful. God built us to be just like Him, and that is having authority, power, dominion, and rulership over the things that He put us over. And those things that He put us over are things that are in our life that we do when we realize it's from God. We have with us today none other than the Honorable Fani Willis, who is running for our DA seat of Fulton County. And so I'm excited to have her with us. And she's going to be here, and she's going to be talking some tough stuff, some wonderful stuff, some powerful stuff. So I want y'all to tune in. As a matter of fact, do me a favor. Call a friend, reach out to somebody and say, hey, Ologies of the Kingdom is on with Pastor Henry, and he has Fani Willis on there with us. Fani, welcome to Ologies of the Kingdom.
Pastor Henry, I am just so elated that you invited me to come today. So elated that you're sharing your audience with me. And then we're going to get to talk about some really important issues that are coming up very recently. And that we're using it in a foundation that we're going to also talk about God. Because I don't think it is something that is separated from God or us being Christians or doing service.
Yeah, I think when I met you and began to listen to you, I heard the flavor of God coming out of your soul, and by that it came out of your voice as you begin to express many things I think our viewers are going to hear, and in hearing they'll also be able to hear exactly what I heard and what I felt at the same time. So listen, I know that we're all on a time restraint, and yet we want to have some fun. So we want to invite all our audience out there to be at home, relax, and enjoy. Again, if you like this, kind of let us know by hitting that bell and subscribing, okay? And first of all, let me just say that this won't be the first. I mean, it won't just be the last, but I'd like for you to come back and...
I'll be back. You know, I've already told you, I intend on putting you to work. So I'll be back, because I'll be winning these interviews. I'll be shaming you in front of your audience saying, I've asked him to help me with this program, y'all.
We're going to edit that. But thinking about that, I think that's good, because when you talk about adding and putting people part of what you do, we all have a specific task, and that task has many components to it that I center around destiny. And destiny has a way of tying our life together from beginning all the way to where we are now. And when we understand God in our lives, we can see how God may have channeled some things. So let's start by just talking about destiny. Tell us about destiny in your life.
I definitely think that this journey that I am on is a journey that is a calling from God. And I do think that it is my destiny, and I don't say that lightly. I'll tell anybody any day of the week, I'm not as far along in my Christianity as you. I am a work in progress, and God is working on me. That being said, I was raised by two parents that loved each other but decided loving each other was better apart. I actually ended up being raised, I have a different upbringing than most people. I was raised by a single parent, but it was my father. And so my father is the major influence over my life. My father was a civil rights activist. He was a Black Panther, actually. And so he was very into the love of Black people and making sure that he poured into me a knowing your worth. But another thing that he poured into me was not a spirit of hatred, but always a spirit of bridging a gap, and that understanding that all people, no matter the way they looked, everyone was entitled to dignity, and that there were good people in every hue. And so that has really stuck with me. My father, I'll share with you some really personal background and history. My father has some awful experiences about just being locked up over and over again when he was in the movement. But what I always heard from my father was not about the bad things that the white people did to him that got him there. Of course, that was part of the stories. But a lot of the stories would be about the white lawyers that came to help all of those African American young men to get out of prison, which is how he ultimately went on to become a lawyer, because he said he found it interesting that only white lawyers would come to get them out of prison every time that they would get locked up. And so he said one of those times he was in jail that he remembered praying and that the only thing he wanted from the Lord was a daughter. And so on his 29th birthday, I was born on his birthday, he got a daughter. And he has been a great inspiration to me. But I have watched him struggle as a parent, because Lord knows that's the hardest job you're given, is to be a parent and to rear someone. And the struggles that he had to do as a working parent. Many things that us as women go through when you're a single mom. I watched my father go through those difficulties, but always watching his love and his passion, because he was a criminal defense attorney, for his clients. I can remember my father as a child going to prison on Christmas Day to visit his clients, because he said nobody else would. And so after we would do our Christmas, he would go visit them. And it ain't what your people tell you, it's what they show you. And so watching that act of service, and there's some other things my father did that were probably non-traditional. At 8, I was putting murder files together, so we won't talk about that part. But it gave me a love and a passion for this field, and knowing just the value of people. As you know, 2 years ago, I ran to be a Superior Court judge, and I was ahead in the polls and the numbers, and everything looked like I was going to win. But we got to that second part of the race, and that was definitely a much different race than now. It was only Republicans came out, and I didn't win that race, and that was very disappointing. I spent a lot of time, a lot of money, had made a lot of sacrifice, but I can literally, and I was getting some mean, because this internet and computer makes people strong. I was getting some really nasty messages from some people that were just uncalled for. I can remember sitting at my computer, kind of alone, not having a job, not really knowing what was the next step, and just praying and saying, like, God, I don't really understand this. I thought I was doing what you wanted me to do for your service, but whatever it is you want, I accept it and use me. And I now know that that race was nothing but preparation for what I am going through now, and that the purpose that God had me for, as honorable as being a judge is, and it is a very honorable job if you do it correctly, that God knew he was going to need me in this time, because we are in a state and society where we are broken, where we are watching a lot of hatred, and I think that you need a broken person like me that God is still working on to really be a bridge, to be a voice, to let people understand that there's some sincere hurt in African Americans, and guess what? It was earned because of some of our past historical things that have happened. But it's also time to be a bridge where we bridge with the other half of our community and let them recognize, we recognize that all of them are not against us, and that most people are really good in their core, and that we're going to work with them. So this is much bigger than a district attorney's race. This is about healing a community.
Man, wow. Fani, it's amazing that in order for God to really get the best out of us, sometimes we have to get broken. And when we get broken and God mend us back together, and then we trust him more, we lean on him more, because when we needed him, he carried us around and he mended us. So praise God for that. Listen, I know that when we came on, we saw some pictures of you and 2 other lovely young ladies, right? Your family. Come on, talk to us about your family. Tell us a little bit about your family.
So my family consists of me and my 2 daughters. My daughters are 20 and 22 years old. My 20-year-old is a rising senior at Florida A&M University, and so we're trying to figure out if she's going to go back in the fall or not with this COVID situation and what's going on. But she is certainly a rising senior. She wants to be a journalism major. I think this is wonderful. I'm going to bring her back so that she can see all of this that you have. And I'm very, very proud of her. My 22-year-old, she's on a meandering path. We're in college one semester. We out of college another semester, but we're on the long way. But she is my artsy child. She is just a brilliant mind. She is the one, though, that she plucks my nerves the worst. She's the one that sends me to prayer. She's the one that makes me be like, God forgive me because I'm a killer.
Right.
And so, but she's taught me a lot of patience. And when I say my children are brilliant and they bring me to a better place, I'm going to tell you a story recently with my 20-year-old. When the incident happened with Ahmaud Arbery down in Brunswick, I was a little bit upset with black people, and I'm going to tell you why. Brunswick is an African American community, and we had this, what I consider to be horrible DAs in those positions. And I was venting to my daughter that we as a community have to do better of voting and putting people into office that are going to represent us. And I was telling her, you know, we're kind of responsible for this. We shouldn't have this kind of person in office. We need to go vote. And my daughter pulled me to the side and said, Mama, I know how you are about voting, and that's a big thing for you and Grandpa, because it is. But the reality is this: if we never vote, we also don't deserve to be treated like this.
Right.
And so it's funny, you pour into your children, and then they pour into you. And so both of my daughters, they're beautiful physically outside. They are beautiful inside. They take all my money, and they are the ones that are aging me. So I love them to death, but they are the cause of every gray hair and every extra pound, every worry is all on them. It's their fault. But I love them to death. They are the reason for my being.
That is awesome. That's beautiful. When you look at your children and you begin to see you. And then you even see more of the reason why you do what you do and love what you do. But I tell you what, you wait till them grandchildren come.
I can't wait. Well, I can wait because I think they would be on my budget right now. But I think I can't wait, and I plan to do to them like what my father does to me.
Yeah.
I can remember my kids being teenagers, and he got them phones, and I was like, I wasn't quite ready. He's like, yeah, but I need them to be able to tell on you. So here it is. So I'm gonna do that kind of stuff back. It's gonna come full circle. It's gonna come full circle.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Well, we talked about destiny. We talked about children. And I have another question I want to talk about. And I think I want to let destiny still tie back in there, because there was something that that I've heard you share a couple of times about sitting on the judge seat. But let me tell you what this question is I want to talk about is vision. Now, vision is pro-video. It's the ability to see and seeing ahead, seeing what God really has for you. A lot of times people think they see what God has, and it's not what God has for them. But when you really know that what I see goes in line with that destiny, and for me to be where I am, because sometimes we got to know the right time to move, the right time to make that move. Amen. And so vision is powerful. Many other plans in a man's heart, but God's purpose, God's vision will always prevail. Meaning you could be wanting to go a whole lot of different places, but if you where God is using you, He will always show you
where He's supposed to go.
Talk to us about vision.
Well, it's funny. I think it ties in. So I mentioned that my father was a criminal defense attorney, and so he was a single father. And so we all know you got these days you have to go to work, and your child has to go with you because you don't have a choice. And so on Saturday mornings, when he was a younger lawyer, he would go and pick up clients, meaning people that got arrested on Friday night. They needed a lawyer Saturday morning, and so he would literally go down to the courthouse. And so my father, while he would go into the back, which means into lockup, to see his clients, you know, who were going to become his newly acquired clients, I was just a little girl with uncombed hair sitting in the courtroom. There was actually an older white Irish judge sitting on the bench, and he noticed my dad's dilemma of leaving this little child in the courtroom, and so he told me, come sit up here on the bench with me. And so my father one day after church was like the judge is whispering in your ear, what is he asking you? And I said, oh, he asked me, are we going to let him go home, or are they going to go to the back? And he said, he asked you what? I said, every person that comes out, he asked me, so do you think we should let them go home? Or do you think they should go to the back, meaning go back to jail? And he said, so do you tell him? I said, yes, I tell him. And so I told him, and I said, and by the way, I'm going to be a judge. And he said, well, before you could be a judge, you need to be a lawyer. And I said, well, what do you have to do to be a lawyer? What does a lawyer do? What does a lawyer do is what I told him. And he said, so he's perplexed because you got this 8-year-old. How do you really explain to them what a lawyer does? And he said, finally, he said, well, you read to people and you help them. You explain to them what they're reading. And I said, well, I can read. So I'm going to be a lawyer. But it's so funny because God gives you the desires of your heart if you are patient.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, I will forever be grateful to Shania Chavis-Rucker, who recommended me to Bill Edwards, and to Bill Edwards for appointing me as the Chief Judge of South Fulton. I think that was something that I needed to accomplish. I think that for a personal fulfillment, but for more than that, being on the bench, it really gave me another perspective to justice. Yeah. And it showed me so many ways that I could help people. Here in South Fulton, we are doing amazing things, and it was hard to give that up. You know, I had to struggle with God to say, you really want me to get us up to do this? But I do believe God has called me. But it showed me all of the programs that we could do, all the alternative things that we could do. And I needed that experience of, one, managing a staff in that kind of nature as a leader, but two, of all the good that we could do that would be an alternate to just being punitive. And so I am so grateful to the city of South Fulton and their programming, because I'm going to steal that from them, and we are going to use it in making the district attorney's office, which doesn't serve just one city, the city of South Fulton, correct, but now all 15 cities. And so everything is part of your destiny and part of your vision. And so let me tell you how that ties in. I truly believe in this role as the DA. We are going to literally be able to impact tens of thousands of lives just in the matter of a 4-year period. That we are really going to be able to directly impact those people that come involved with the criminal justice system, whether they're the victim, the witness, or the person charged. But the seeds that we sow, they're going to be able to go out into the community and do great things. And as a whole, we're going to get better. Now, I'm not unrealistic. It's going to be with some hard work and some long hours. But the vision that I see for restoring integrity and in compassion and mercy into that office, I think that we're going to do amazing things. And it's going to require a lot of prayer, and I'm asking a lot of people to pray for me as I do it, because even on this journey, I have watched people attack me falsely, just tell bold lies, but I accept that, and I talk to God about that, and I understand that I have to go through this so that I can be prepared for where He's taking me.
You know, I want to say, instead of just having folks just to pray for you, but also pray with you. Okay. And that means, when I say with you, that means to be in there with you. You see, if I'm in there with you, then I can understand what I need to be praying about for you.
Absolutely.
So just being on the outside is just one of them regular prayers that we pray anytime, anywhere. But to be in there with you means I understand. I'm willing to help. I'm willing to get my hands dirty. Right. I'm willing to fight with you, stand with you. And therefore, when I go to God, I'm talking to God out of your experience that I have experienced with you. Kind of like, I see you, I feel you, I hear you. Go ahead.
I just want to say on that, I am really grateful to you, because you have called me, you have prayed with me, you've poured support into me, and there are others that have done the same. But I don't think you all know how rare you are. There are so many people that don't have the courage to stand with me. They even can see from the sidelines that our community needs a change. And that change is not about an individual or an individual's indiscretions. Right. It's about how, if we don't get a change, we are damaging us as a whole. But they know it in their heart, but they don't have the courage to do it. And so I applaud those like you that pray with me, pray for me, and have the courage to tell the world, I'm standing with her, because at the end of the day, I'm fighting for my community.
That's it. That's it. And that's what we do. We do fight for our community, because if we're not working together, believe it or not, we're actually working apart. And we want to see the change, we want to be part of the change, then we have to be in there working with you. I want to say this in regards to vision with what you were saying. I believe that God's original idea for us as His creation was to live in a way of be, do, have. And I think that those three terms is God's original plan for the way we're supposed to live, be, do, have. What we have done is we have always messed up what God created was do, have, and be. We try to do it, then we try to say, hey, you know, look at me, I have it now, and then we try to be. So we'll do it, you know. But God's original plan was be, do, have. Be it. Be what you say you're gonna be. Be it now. So you said at the age of 8, you were already being the judge. You were already making the decision. Should they go home or go to the back? You know, I want to kind of say, what did you base your decision on?
Hopefully the old man wasn't listening to me.
So you were being the judge, and then you wanted to do what it takes to be the judge, and your dad told you, and that means all the way from elementary school all the way up, you had to be that now, and so you do what you're being, and then you're gonna have the result. And what we see is a testimony to be, do, have. Be it now. And I tell young folks, I ask them, what are you gonna be when you grow up? And if they say a doctor said, be it now. Begin to think like a doctor. I say, as a matter of fact, have your family call you Dr. Wilson right now.
Into existence.
There you go. Speak it into existence. Begin to walk it. Now do what a doctor does. It means you got to go to school. You got to graduate. You got to pass all your grades. You got to graduate from elementary, high school, college. You got to be. And then once you do what you're being, you're going to eventually have the result. You are a testimony to God's original plans for humanity to be, do, and have.
I love that.
Congratulations.
I love that. I have to tell you, I'm good friends with Keisha Lance Bottom's sister and her, but Tracy Upshaw is the sister's name. And I remember she told me, you know, because I'll discuss with her like some of the struggles that you go through when you're running, and she talks about when her sister went through that, and she talks about, you know, 6 months before she ever won, they started calling her mayor because they were claiming it and calling it into existence. And so every now and then I have a good friend, and he'll say, how's it going, Madam DA?
There you go.
And I said, we gonna just keep talking that thing into existence, letting God know that this is His plan. And I do think that, like you said, I need people in there with me, because I worry. I watch so many politicians that I believe started out with the right ideology. Now some started out and it was always about them, but so many people that perhaps they started out with it, and there's so many temptations, so much of whatever, that they make it about something else. And so I want that continued prayer to make, no matter how much I'm attacked, no matter how much I'm angered, no matter how much temptation comes my way, that what I remember is that I'm only there to do His work and to serve Him and to make this community better. I believe this is my legacy. So I guess that goes back to that destiny.
Yes.
And we'll get into some of the things that I want to do and the details of my vision, but I think that those things are going to be what I leave this planet being known for.
Fantastic. I think it's good, Fani, to make sure that you have some folks that will always hold you accountable.
Absolutely.
Not the people whose checks you might sign, or not the people who feel like they got to be on your good side, smile in your face, but some people that will always hold you accountable, that will remember your integrity and always remind you of that integrity.
Check you.
Yeah, that's it. Because you can easily get sidetracked with a whole lot of stuff folks want to bring your way. Let's go a little deeper. So we talked about mission, we talked about families, we talked about vision. Oh, there was one other thing you kind of mentioned that I wanted to hear. You said your daughter came and asked you, why are you doing this? So now I want you to go into that as we go into what has your experience as a prosecutor has been. I want to go into that question, but as you get ready to go into that question, tell us about that.
So I was sharing with Pastor Henry a story. So when I started this vision, probably for this journey, probably for the first time in life, like things were financially getting okay and life was okay. I was the chief judge of the South Fulton, and I'm always going to be very proud of that. And they were compensating me well. And in addition to that, I had my private practice, and I was starting to get the exact clientele I wanted of professionals and even athletes and some people that are well known. And so my daughter asked me one day, like, why did you put all of that down so we can go do this? And they're like attacking you every day, like, why did you do that? And I told her, because I can help people. So, you know, your daughter will check you. She said, you can help people doing something else. She was already helping people. And I said, no, but I am going to literally, in this role, through the things that we are going to be able to do, help tens of thousands of people that will then, through their tentacles, go on to help other people. And we're really going to be a seed in changing the world. And so although it comes at tremendous personal sacrifice, I do believe God has me. He's going to make a way for this to happen. And we are going to really be able to change some lives that are going to impact lives I never know about.
Fantastic. All right, so let's get into it. What has your experience as a prosecutor been?
So my experience as a prosecutor, first of all, I've been practicing law for 24 years. Of that 24 years, I spent a year as a solicitor, which is just someone who prosecutes misdemeanor crime and city ordinance violations. Ironically enough, when I sat as the chief judge, those were the kind of cases that I was presiding over. I served as a Fulton County district attorney for 16 years, 4 months and 4 days. Ain't nobody counting, but that's what the number was. And so as a district attorney, I literally got to work through every unit. I got to do what was the charging unit, where you make decisions. I got to work in the trial division, which was kind of like your armed robberies, your aggravated assaults, your burglaries. I did murders and cold cases for 8 years straight. Many of those years I got up at 2, 3 in the morning and walked over people's bodies. I went on from there. I did some sex crimes for a while. I also had the chance to supervise the largest division of that office, which was 25 lawyers, where we made calls and decisions on cases. Throughout all of those experiences, it gave me the experiences to know that as you have prosecutors come through that office, you have to teach them integrity, because if they don't have it, everything else is garbage. They have to make sure that they have integrity, that they understand that the people's names that are in those files, they're not widgets. They are people with lives, and we have to treat them as such. We also have to have some compassion as we do that, and we have to do so in a way that is just. Someone that can't do that, please don't apply, and you can't stay. So it taught me that, but it also taught me you have to feed into them and you have to teach them. And so I think that those are going to be great experiences for me to recruit a qualified staff, but for us to go and do the mission, which is to serve the people of this county. And so I would say it taught me the nuts and bolts of how to try a case. I've tried well in excess of 100, and so I will be able to pour that knowledge into other people. But it also taught me the intrinsic things that you're going to need to have as to be a good prosecutor, and the basics. What kind of resources are we going to need? What do I need in an investigator? What do I need in a paralegal? Because the reality is, it's not an easy job I'm applying for. I will have 110 lawyers that report to me. I will have about 70 investigators, and I'll have another staff of 50. This is an important job, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the second most important law enforcement officer in the state of Georgia, with the Attorney General being number 1 and the District Attorney in Fulton being number 2, as this is the largest jurisdiction. It is important that this role is filled with someone that is God-fearing and has integrity, because we can literally set the tone for the entire Southeast. There's no office more important from Washington, D.C. to Miami. And so if you think about the influence this office can have, those experiences as a prosecutor give me the education and the practical day-to-day experience to do the job.
That's deep. Now, there's a little bit more in that. Before we go to the next one, can you explain that? Can you go just into a little bit more detail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me. There are 2 to 3 things you need to do this.
Okay.
And being a prosecutor taught me that. One is to do the job. You know, if you've ever worked any job, doesn't matter what. If they put in some supervisor and they don't know what they're doing, they've never done what they're asking you to do, they can't be of any assistance to grow you. And so I am somebody who, I got all the battle scars. Okay. I have walked the walk. And so I'm not just going to come in as a supervisor. I'm going to come in having done what you've done. And so that practical experience helps. 2, the managerial piece and understanding you really become mama when you become a supervisor. I had literally, when I was a supervisor, I had a young lady wake me up at 3 in the morning. Her brother had been murdered, and she was an assistant district attorney. And what was required to build her up and to love on her and to make sure that the staff knew to love on her. So you need those experiences. You also have to have people skills. One thing that I think will be distinct from me, from your current district attorney, is you need relationships to operate in the criminal justice system. You need relationships with community. You need relationship with law enforcement. You need relationships with the bench, the judges, right. Relationships with the county commissioner and the sheriff. And so because I have been in that day-to-day, I understand the significance of, one, my experience as being just a trial lawyer, my experiences of being a supervisor, and my experiences of understanding how the different parts work and how important it is to work with them.
Right. Wow. That's good. This is wonderful. So let's go to that next question. So what has your experience as a defense attorney talk to you about needed changes in the Fulton County DA's office, needed changes.
And I would say that both being a prosecutor, I saw some of the things that were broken, and I can talk about those things that are broken. But let me tell you how being a defense attorney, and this is why God take you through things when you don't understand what he's doing, how it has just shown me how important what we are doing is. So I have a client that's down at a prison, and he is, when I went to see him, he's an African-American young man. He's 28 years old. And I went down to the prison way. You know, they put the prisons in the middle of the state, in front of nowhere. You're on a little dirt road before you get there. And I went to the prison to see him. And as I looked around, it was just too many of us. And it was depressing. And it was able-bodied, handsome, young men, all that I'm sure with potential.
Yeah.
And as I watched that situation, I said, this something is broken. This is what we're doing. This mass incarceration. This ain't working.
Right.
And so it led into my philosophy that we have to make changes and things have to change. Another experience I had as a defense attorney is I had right here in Clayton County some officers, mixed race officers, take $150,000 off of one of my clients. And when you read the report, it was clear they had only profiled him because he was a black man. And the way that office dealt with the forfeiture, and it was the last DA, it wasn't his current one, it was just disgusting to me. Y'all can sit here and you know that this is not right. And I said, you know what, when I'm the DA, we're not going to do stuff like this. We're not going to do business like this. And so it gave me, I think that I was already compassionate and sensitive, but it heightened my understanding of how important it is to stand in this role and what a difference I can make to when a lawyer 10 years from now goes to that prison. There will still be black and brown people there because they will have committed crimes and they will have earned the right to be there, but maybe there'll be less. Yeah. Maybe there will be other things that we've done that now they're at the factory, now they're at a job, now they're lawyers in the courtroom, now they're doctors, maybe now they're preachers.
I like that.
Because you know what? My daddy always said only one perfect man walked the earth and they crucified him. So we all make mistakes, and the mistakes don't have to necessarily have consequences that rip that person out of the community forever.
Wow. You're providing hope.
I'm providing hope.
Yeah.
My office is going to provide hope.
Yeah, because that's something that has left our community. That's why we run. That's why we battle, because people have taken what we could consider as hope.
Right.
That means I just hope it's going to get better. I
Right.
just believe. So when you take that away, I have nothing else. I have no future. I have nothing. So if I have that, I'd rather just not be here because I have nothing.
Right.
So thank you for looking forward to restore.
Right.
We was talking about that restorative justice, to restore that hope.
Yes.
Let's go on to our next question. So what sort of, since I mentioned restorative, what sort of restorative and alternative justice program do you want to bring to Fulton County?
So this is where I get excited, Pastor. This is where I really, really get excited.
Okay.
I think something that is sad, and I want to take the time, I realized as a lawyer that I understood what I meant, and then I was talking to people and they didn't necessarily. So when the police arrest someone, they arrest them on what's called probable cause. It is the lowest standard in the law, and certainly in the criminal law. And the police officer has done their job. We shouldn't criticize them for that because that's what the law requires. One witness says you did it, we arrest you. Yeah. What is happening under the current administration is it is basically going from that statement to a charge. I think that's wrong. I think that the entire way that we are going to do business is going to be different. The first thing is there has to be complete and thorough investigations, due process.
Yeah.
I am going to switch that office like literally upside down, and in what I am going to call the case intake unit, I'm going to put 15 of my most seasoned investigators and lawyers, and they are going to investigate those cases. We are going to find that many cases are not going to ever get prosecuted because the evidence is simply not there. But guess what else we're going to find? On those cases where the evidence is actually there, that we're going to have the case to properly prosecute it and to remove dangerous people from our community. And I'll give you a real practical example. In Atlanta and even in South Fulton, almost on every corner you have these cameras that record what's going on. And so those cameras only last about 45 days. If you go to the convenience store, that camera probably only lasts 48 hours. If you don't have investigators on the front end getting that evidence, it is lost forever.
That's correct.
And that evidence sometimes will be what sets somebody free. Because guess what the witness said, it was a lie.
Right.
But if you got the camera, you'll know that. And sometimes what it's going to do is we're going to say, we got you on camera. What the witness said is true, and you don't deserve to be out here if you're abusing our community like this. And so it will create those two buckets that will do both of those better. But the other thing, Pastor, is this: we got to tell the truth.
Okay.
Some of them going to have done it.
Yeah.
But there's another way. And there's a better way, in my opinion. And that is to create, before we ever draft a formal indictment, a formal charge, I'm going to be offering people pre-indictment. So before charges, because with charges come all kind of consequences. People can't get student loans. They got a hard time getting a job. All of these things. I'm going to start these programs. And I'm going to be working with community leaders, and this is where you come in. Not just you, but other pastors that you connect with, and Habitat for Humanity and other organizations. We are going to be requiring in the very community that you committed this crime and you did something, you got to get back to that community, because you just don't get a pass. And so we're going to be requiring people to do community service. We're going to require them, something I did in Fulton, South Fulton, is theft prevention classes, really educate you on that. We're going to be requiring that people have jobs. We're going to require that they pay restitution back to victims, all the things that would restore the community, and in the process restore them. And hopefully we're going to change lives around so they don't continue to become a part of the criminal justice system. And there's really no risk in this. Because if you decide you don't like my program, you don't want to do what Pastor Henry says when I sent you down there to do the community service, you don't want to go to school, you don't want to assist the victim in becoming whole again, well, then we'll prosecute you in the normal way. But how many people can I save by giving the alternative? And so that is the program that I am most excited about. That is the program that I believe is going to just impact so many. But there's a lot of things we're going to do. We're going to create what I call an SB 440 unit. And SB 440 is the statute that charges children 13 to 17 as adults. And so what happens is, if you do what we call the deadly 7 crimes, armed robbery, murder, rape, all of these kind of crimes, you instantly become an adult even though you're 13 to 17 years old. I think that that's a problem. What I am going to do is create a unit of people that's going to involve a social worker, it's going to involve a therapist, it's certainly going to involve a lawyer and investigator, because we all going to have to look at what the crime was. But we're also going to look at, have you been a deprived kid? Are you in defects custody? Do you have these kind of issues? And instead of the policy being, we just going to send you automatically to adult court, we're going to see if there is something we can do to leave you in juvenile court, where you definitely still pay the consequences for your crime, but you're not treated as an adult, and we can restore you so that we can put you back into society at 18, as opposed to basically ruining your life forever. And so I'm not here to tell people there'll never be somebody who does something that is at that age range that won't be prosecuted as an adult, but we're going to make it the exception as opposed to the rule.
Wow. The Lord gave me a little thought on that. Hope and justice.
Hope and justice.
Hope and justice. Hope inside of justice. So I love that, because when we talk about restorative and helping our people, the courts right now is almost like a revolving door.
Yes, absolutely.
They sing you out knowing that you're going to come back in, and because you're not going to meet those standards that we place, that's designed for you not to meet, and won't nobody say that, and eventually you're going to end up in jail.
Right.
Okay, so it's not fixing
the
our
problem.
problem. It's creating problems on top of problems, because
right.
when you move the father from the home, when you move that male's presence from that child's life, we've done so much damage.
It's broken.
You know, and we fall into a process that's been set up for us to fail, that we have accepted. Mm-hmm. And this is hope in the midst of justice.
Right.
Where hope has been taken out, this gives hope, and I like that. That's good. We used to do community service here, and we still do. One of the things that we get,
we're gonna do it on a bigger level.
I love it. I mean, we were doing it out here in South Fulton, mm-hmm. and for a long time, the only church or ministry out here doing it. But we established through magistrate court, and we would have over 300 some odd citizens to come through a year. But what we gave is what I'm hearing from you, and as I said to our audience, that you feel this and you hear it, is love. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another word for what I hear coming out of you is you're going to put some ministry back. Ministry means the work of our hands, things that we have to do. But we would love folks will come in here so angry and so mad because of what they've been treated out there, then think that people just love them for who they were, not knowing you, but just love you because you are a human being. And we won so many people over on our side because they realize that, hey, you really, really do
care.
That's it.
And I think that we have to, a prosecutor right now and even law enforcement in general is kind of demonized and looked at as something that is negative. Yeah. But I always tell people, I've been both a defense attorney, I was that in the beginning of my career, I'm that again now. The reason that I enjoy being a prosecutor so much is because I always tell people, and it's not a slight to being a defense attorney, because of the job, I can impact and help so many more people because I have the discretion to decide. See, it's powerful to charge somebody. Yeah. It's even more powerful not to. If you have the discretion to make that decision. And please understand me, I am a real prosecutor. So I've tried probably 100 murders. I know that there is evil that walks among us and things evil occur, and that we have to make sure that the society is safe, and we're going to deal with those people. But we're not going to waste resources on some of these trivial cases. Yeah. We need to bring common sense back. I always tell people, I'm going to talk about the men for a minute, so the ladies going to appreciate this one, okay?
Okay.
One of a case I saw repeatedly, just a common fact pattern that I like to give people is, I would often see these patterns where a man and women, they live together, their girlfriend and boyfriend, they live together. And they have a car, and the car is kind of a joint car that they share, but the car is really hers. And he takes the car and he goes and visits his girlfriend number 2. Now she angry, as she should be. But what she does, and she calls and she reports that car stolen. But now he gets arrested. He's going to go through that because the police had the probable cause. She said the car was stolen. I found him in the car. The car ain't registered in your name. The police did their job. We can't be mad with the police. But when it comes to the DA's office, and now you got her, she ain't so mad. No, it's 2 days. You start to learn through your investigation. Oh, wait a minute, they live together. Wait a minute, on your key ring, sir, is the key to the car. Oh, wait a minute, you got pictures like you've been using the car. But what you did was you went and saw Tanya, and your girlfriend's name is Mary, and she wasn't happy about that. That's not a case we should be giving somebody a felony for. Now, she needs a new man, Pastor. That's just the truth. She needs a new boyfriend.
Yeah.
But he doesn't need a felony.
Thank you.
And so you need common sense life experiences to know, hey, girlfriend, you need a new man, but he doesn't need a felony. We don't need to make it hard for him to get a job. We don't need all of those things. Now, I'm not talking about domestic violence cases where a woman comes in and recants, but you have to be there to protect her because she is so broken, she's not at a place she can protect herself. But certainly in a scenario like that. You know, I talked to a contractor yesterday, and he had something go wrong with a contract, and they were trying to work something out, and he got charged criminally, and it ended up being $15,000. Why wasn't he put in pretrial, let to pay that $15,000? Why did we put that man into being a felon? I don't want to do that. Like, that's broken. That doesn't make any sense. And while we're not wasting time on that, you got somebody who's killing homeless people. He's killed 4 people. Oh, we're going to put a lot of resources in that because he needs to be removed from society. And so you have to have these common sense things. I see the dark and the ugly in life. I'm not going to sit here and tell people we're not going to put people in jail. We are. I assure you we're going to do it. We're going to remove them. But there's other people that they don't really need to be in that. I have found through my career, that's going back to what is being a prosecutor, what is being a defense attorney taught me. What it has really taught me is that 85-90% of the people just made a stupid decision. And another 7% are evil. And there are some that are just caught up in situations. Wow. But really, 90% just made a really dumb decision, and 10% are evil. We're going to focus on that 10%. We're going to get them out of here.
Wow. That's beautiful. I feel like applauding on that. Oh, wow. Good. All right. So I think people loving this. Next question. So, what are your plans? What are your plans around accountability for public officials, including police officers? And just before we get into that, you know, a lot of police officers, especially with Atlanta, are finding other departments to work for because something that Paul Howard said, for the most part, that if you get out there and for the most part you take someone's life, that before due process is actually done, you've already told me that you're going to try to put me in jail for life or, death penalty. And that's kind of bad for a person who honestly trying to do this job right and love what they do and put on a uniform knowing that when they put their uniform on and leave that home, they might not make it back. 9 times out of 10, they know that I might not make it back. So every time I get a chance to go home, God, I thank you. But at the end of the day, if it gets into that battle, I'm required to go back home. I got to go back home. But it's not going to make me do something wrong based upon what I'm taught. If I do it right, then why am I being threatened that I'm going to be thrown in jail for life? It's the mental thought. So anyway, talk to us.
So I want to talk to you a lot about that. I have been here, and we talked about it a little earlier on about lies being told, and seems to be a prevalent lie. Mm-hmm. Pastor, I want you to know I am endorsed by Voter Pro Choice. I am endorsed by Women of the West, which is an organization that basically endorses Democratic women that they find to be worthy.
Okay.
I am endorsed by Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys, and I am endorsed by IBPO, which is the International Brother of Police Officers. I am also endorsed by, over a half a dozen African American pastors. I am endorsed by probably 60 elected officials or community servants. They are white, they are black, they are Indian, they hail from the city of South Fulton. That's where I had the most endorsements. Let me tell you the truth, this is my own.
Yeah.
But also they're from East Point, they're from the city of Fairburn, they are from Johns Creek and Sandy Springs and Buckhead and everywhere in between. But I have been hearing this lie lately that because one of all of those important, I'm endorsed by Felicia Moore, who's the president of the city council, or Helen Willis down here, and William Bodie, state representatives, all these fabulous people, but one of my endorsers is Mary Norwood, and one is the police union. Mm-hmm. So of 60-something endorsers, those are 2. And I tell everybody I'm trying to be a bridge, and I don't know why everybody is fighting that I'd like to be a bridge for all of these communities. But the lie, and I needed to it's a lie from the devil, that people are saying is, oh, because she is endorsed by those organizations, she is not going to hold police accountable. That is a lie.
I know that's right.
Or elected officials, or citizens that break the law. But it's a lie that, people keep telling, and I keep getting asked. So let me say it clearly. My pastor say, make it plain. Mm-hmm. If a police officer breaks and violates the law, he'll be prosecuted. But what am I going to do? Because I know that we're broken. I know that their hearts are not healed. I know that there is a distrust right now for law enforcement, which is the job that I am applying for. One of the things that we're going to do from the beginning, from day one, is right now I understand, although the DA is making a show of these, he's got over 125 of these cases sitting on his desk. Some of them that go back to 2015 and 16, that there's been no justice, there's been no answer. We are going to put every single case on the website where all a person has to know is either the officer's name or the person that they allege to have been involved with them. They'll be able to click on it. When they click on it, they're going to be able to see this case is under investigation, this case has been presented to the grand jury, this case has been cleared. That transparency, will they like every decision? Absolutely not. But will they know the decision? They'll know it because it's going to be right there. Another thing that I'm going to do is we know that police officers have, because of their job and their nature, they are the only people that can come in the grand jury where you actually seek an indictment, and they can actually defend their case, and they can bring a lawyer.
True. Every
other person, the grand jury is secret. They don't get to come in. That's the way the statute and the law is written. But one thing that I am committing to is I'm going to, for those in particular hearings, I'm going to bring a court reporter in because the law does allow me to do that. And we're going to let that transcript become part of the record if the case is indicted.
Okay. Great.
That would go on, and the defense attorney would have access to it. So there's not going to be any secrecy around this. And if the case is cleared, we're going to make sure, if the grand jury decides not to return an indictment, or if I clear it, then they'll have that information and they'll have access to that transcript, and they'll be able to see at least the info. They won't be able to see the grand jurors because that's secret, but they'll be able to see the decision made and the evidence that was presented. Because I need them to know we did our job.
Right.
I didn't go in there and shuck and jive. It wasn't any winks. This is what happened. You can read it for yourself. The other thing that I plan to do is in year 2, and I'll tell you why it's going to be a year 2, I'm going to start a citizens review panel. And so for those cases where we've come to a decision, they will be given these files of either the officers that are cleared or the officers that are closed by charge and plea, and the citizens can review it and they can look through it. One reason I'm going to wait till year 2 is I think that if you apply to be on that committee, you need to know something about being an officer. And so we're going to have them do some requirements, so you're not judging somebody and you don't know what their rules are.
True.
You haven't done a ride along. You don't know anything about what they do, so that they can be educated to make that review. And so we're going to be completely transparent. I think a DA requires courage. And so them cases that are back in 16, I'm going to either be telling mamas, I'm so sorry, I can't imagine your pain, but the evidence is not here and we're clearing it. Or in the alternative, present this to the grand jury, and we're going to get an indictment and we're going to move forward. But whatever the decision is, ain't nobody going to be whispering about it. There's not going to be any committee. Go to our page and click on, and you will know the answer. And so we're going to do a lot of things. I think if they just had transparency, that it would just ease so many things that are happening.
That's going to help to bring closure to so many people.
And it's going. We in a hole. I mean, can you imagine 125 of those type cases just sitting, waiting for resolution? So I know that it's going to be a hole, but I am committed to within 24 months that it being some kind. Well, we're not 4 or 5 years behind. Hopefully, after 2 years, we'll only be maybe a year behind at that point, and we're just going to plug through these cases.
When you're jumping in there working.
Oh, I tell anybody, if you come apply for a job here at 21 and 22, it's going to be rough. It's going to be some rough years. Don't come if you think you want a 9 to 5. This ain't going to be no 9 to 5 over here. So,
but we need that.
We absolutely need it. We have to turn it around.
Yeah.
We have to turn it around. And, this is God through this process. He has stripped a lot out of my life, and I think he stripped it out because he's like, girl, I'm gonna need you to focus. This is what you're going to have to do. And so I've been working diligently. I'm in private practice. I think I'm down to 10 clients. I've been trying to get their cases resolved. Those that I don't get resolved by September, I will put in the hands of other competent lawyers. But my clients spoiled. They like, I want you to get this finished. So I'm gonna work really hard to get their cases closed. And to just focus on this. My children are 20 and 22, and so other than the money, they're pretty independent. And so we're just going to I'm excited, Pastor. I don't think that people understand how many lives we're going to be able to touch, and I'm just excited. And as you said, I'm going to ask people to pray with me. This is a rough journey. It brings on lots of attacks, but it's worth it.
Amen. Praise God. That's good. So what are you going to do that is specifically targeted to assist the youth?
Oh, I think this is where we have to do so much. I really feel like, people complain about the juvenile court and the point system. I really, really think that if we don't capture people when they are young, we are going to lose them. And I need you to understand what I mean when I say young. If we don't capture them by 16 or 17, it's probably already too late. It's probably already too late. They are probably already too far down that path. And so we are going to be working with nonprofits and other organizations that, again, just like the pastors, I really would like to utilize them to work with the youth, but also with community groups. I am a huge fan of Next Level Boys Academy that is run by Gary Davis. I have, as a prosecutor, sent so many young men in that were kind of troubled in reaching out to organizations, getting these people busy, getting people in their lives, and really just trying to change this culture. Because I have a acute understanding that by the time 21, 22, 23, the battle is long done. Yeah. And so we're going to really dig in some resources to that community.
Fanny, you done said a lot.
We got a lot to do. We got a lot to do.
Well, I think that from what everybody here, they can make that determination. I hope that they are inspired as we are in this room. And for those watching, there's more than just the two of us in this room. And there's smiles and excitement in this room. So we thank you. Listen, we're about at the conclusion. So wrap it up for us.
This is what I want to say, and we've kept this setting positive. We, as Democrats, get an opportunity to choose a district attorney, and this is important. This race on July 20th is when early voting starts, and the election is August 11th. We'll get to choose our district attorney, we'll get to choose our sheriff, and we will get to choose one judicial seat. I just want to shame people at this point. I want you to go, I want you to do your research, and I want you to go through the inconvenience and get to the polls. Because especially in my race, because of the issues that are facing the current DA, it is very likely that after the election, even if he won, he would be removed and Governor Kemp would get to appoint. I don't think that that is appropriate. I think that the voters need to make a choice. I am telling you, I am who I say I am. All the good and all the bad. And I am asking you to put faith in me. He has been the district attorney for 24 years. If he couldn't get it done in this time, what makes you think 4 more would help? It is time for a change, and I'm asking them, I am basically begging them to help me help this community and go and cast a vote for Fani Willis for district attorney.
Well, I would say this much, when it comes down to Governor Kemp appointing, if that comes down, he will not appoint anybody that will benefit our community.
Well, it's come back to me through the mill that I'm not really going to be on that list, even though I was, I beat the incumbent of 24 years by almost 8 percentage points, almost 13,000 votes. I think it's 12,948 to be exact votes. But I would not be in that running because I'm a Democrat. And you hear what my program is, and you hear what I'm trying to pour in, and that is not necessarily in line with what their mission is. And although I'm law and order and I respect law and order, this is not working, and we have to do something different. And I don't want to go to visit another prison and see what I saw.
Thank you. Well, let me say this as we begin to wrap it up. Someone asked me, said, would you allow Paul Howard to come on? And I said, well, sure. So I want to give him an invitation if he would like to come on and sit and talk. Give us a call, and he know how to get in touch with me if he want to.
Pastor Henry, everybody know how to get in touch with you. you don't make it so hard to find, and you make sure everybody knows that you watching this community, and we better do things right. So
I am deeply involved in our community, and
I love that.
And with the whole Black Lives Movement, everything that's going on, it brings so much history back to the forefront. And if we don't go and vote, we're gonna stay where we are. There must be a change, and we got to keep something else in mind. A lot of people that are in place now have been trained by the people that we're complaining about. So their mentality, their actions is as theirs are. Theirs is. So we have to make a change, but that ain't got nothing to do with saying we need to get you in there. Your vision, your purpose, your destiny is in line. And I believe that you're right where God needs you to be. And when you know you're where God needs you to be, then I'm going to tell you what you do, sister. Keep on speaking it. Because we have the ability, once you see it in the spirit realm, then you speak it into the physical. Now, if you don't see it in the spirit realm, don't you dare start speaking it. But if you see it there, that's what faith is. It's that unseen reality, because what you see in the spirit realm is unseen by the naked eye. But when you speak it, it comes into existence because you're already handling it.
Right.
You continue to walk by faith.
Trust me, it is faith at this point.
You continue to go as God is leading you, and I am excited. Thank you. Thank you for coming. And you promised to come on again, right?
Listen, with a whole to-do list of what I need your help with for this community. Yes, I will be back. I promise. I will be back after we secure this victory.
Yeah.
I will be back as the district attorney. I will be back probably not just asking you, but asking those that listen to you.
Amen.
Please help us in this journey.
Hey, so let's get involved, guys. We need everybody to be involved, and let's vote a change. All right. No matter what, continue to remember Black Lives Matter.
Absolutely.
And also make sure you vote, because if you don't vote, you can't say nothing about what's already happening. Amen.
Amen.
So thank you again for coming.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Thank you so very much. All right.
Awesome. Good. It went okay?
I'm already a fan.
Okay, good.